Hello everybody, my name is Nayara and welcome to my channel where we talk about all things bookish and or story related in general because we love stories. So today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about internal conflict and basically just what that looks like in books and why is it so important, because I talk about internal conflict a lot. If you know me, I talk about internal conflict all the time. So I just thought it would be a good idea if I start by talking a little bit about internal conflict, just so that everybody's on the same page about what it looks like, what it is, and why it's so important for books to have internal conflict and stories to have internal conflict in general, because it is a very important part of what makes stories amazing. So let's get started. So, internal conflict. What exactly is internal conflict? So, internal conflict is exactly what it sounds. It's when a character, and because we're talking about books, obviously, when a individual has conflicting emotions or thoughts. That is what internal conflict really is. Internally, inside of themselves, they are kind of at war with themselves over, different sort of desires, something that they want, and just their emotions are really at war with themselves. Really, that's what internal conflict is, being at war with yourself. So what internal conflict almost always boils down to these simple three things, not two, it can be two, but a lot of times it's three. These three simple things, which is desire versus a fear or a misbelief, or both of them. A lot of times it is both. So what that means is that the desire is something that the character or individual, what they want, right? It's something that they feel is important, something that they want, some sort of goal that they're trying to get to. It can be a lot of different things, but there's some sort of desire, something that they want, or something that's very important to them, that they're kind of fighting for or trying to get to. And then that desire oftentimes will clash with a fear, so something that they're afraid of, and or a misbelief, which is basically a worldview, something that the character believes that is not necessarily correct, not necessarily true. That's why it's a misbelief. A misbelief comes from, a lot of times stems from the fear itself, because they're afraid of something, and then from that fear they build a kind of misbelief off of that, or sometimes it's their life experiences. They will experience something in their lives and then they'll think that oh, this is just a true fact, even though it's not necessarily. So that is what internal conflict really, when you boil it down, it can be complicated sometimes, but it almost always boils down to these three things once you peel back all of the layers. Because really, internal conflict is going to look different. Internal conflict is going to look different in pretty much everybody. No two people are the same, no two characters are the same. So it's going to look different in every single individual, but when it boils down to it, when you peel back all of those layers, at the heart, at the root of internal conflict, it is almost always those things: a desire, and versus a misbelief, something that's standing in their way. So, you know, the character wants something, they have some sort of goal, and they're trying to attain it, or, you know, yeah, attain their goal, or make their desire come true, make their, you know, their wish come true. But there's something standing in their way. A lot of times it's that fear or that misbelief, or both of them, kind of tied together in a big jumble messy knot. So yes, that is what internal conflict is. And the kind of segueing into the next part, it's a internal conflict is really a human condition. It, like, so many humans have this. It's really just a fact of being alive, being a human. You know, there's something that we're afraid of, and there's something that we want, and a lot of times that can kind of create problems. And so it's a human condition, and so if you want the characters, if the characters are really built like characters should be built, if they are built in a way that they are like real people, they will have internal conflict. So why is internal conflict so important? That's the second question. Why is internal conflict so important? So internal conflict is so important because it's really what makes the characters human, right? Because we're just talking about books in general, stories. Like, why is internal conflict so important for just like reading a book? Like, why does that even matter in the first place? Well, it matters because the characters should be people. They should be real. They should feel like real people. And if characters are going to feel like real people, they need to have this sort of internal conflict. I'm going to be talking a lot about internal conflict when I talk about the different books that I read, because it's a part of what really makes the story go, because the characters are at the heart of every story. Because when we read books, we don't read books, you know, just to, you know, appreciate the fancy words and just to appreciate, you know, oh, this world is really cool. I mean, that's awesome if the world is really cool. You know, like if you pick up a really good fantasy book and it's like, oh, wow, like this world is so amazing, so cool, I love it. Like, that's great. But that's not necessarily why we pick up a book. A lot of times, you know, why do we read? I read because I want to be inspired, because I want to learn something. I want to watch an individual, a person go on a journey. I want to see people grow and learn and go on a journey, and I want to see them change. I want to be inspired. I want to read a book that has a beautiful message. That's what I want out of a story, because at the end of the day, that's what I feel like is most important in the story. It's not necessarily like the nice way it was written, or, you know, oh, this world was super cool. Like, a good story is going to have that as well. It's going to be written well. It's going to have great world building. But at the end of the day, I read stories for the people because I want to see people's lives. I want to see how they change, how they grow, how they learn. And so really, characters are at the heart of every story, and because of that, they need to feel human. If they don't feel human, you know, we're going to be like, what? Like, this book does not have, you know, like real people. Like, this characters and not real. They're flat. Without internal conflict, the character is going to be very flat. They're not going to have depth. They're not going to feel human. They aren't going to feel real. And if they don't feel real, if they don't feel human, if they're just flat, and they don't go on any sort of journey where they learn something and they grow and they work through and they achieve their goals, you know, if there's not this depth, this journey, this learning, this teaching, you know, I'm not going to get anything out of it as a reader. I'm not going to be able to walk away from that book and feel fulfilled and feel like, wow, like that was an amazing story about an amazing person, even if, you know, they aren't a real person. It still teaches you something, right? And so at the end of the day, that's what I want from a book, right? I want to be inspired. I want to see the journey. I want to see the growth. I want to learn something. And if there's not internal conflict, that's not really going to happen. Because I read books for people, for the person, for the character. That's why I read books. So that's why I wanted to talk about internal conflict, and why I feel like internal conflict is so important. So I just wanted to talk about internal conflict so that we're all on the same page. We know what internal conflict is. We know why it's important, because I'm going to be talking about internal conflict all the time. So yes, that's all I have for you today, guys. Peace, hang loose, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoy making videos and talking to you guys. Thank you so much, my friends. Keep on fighting, and I'll see you later.